All right, wonderful, everybody. Again, thank you for being here. We're so happy to have you. I changed jerseys because I'm sort of changing hats for this one. I'll give you 30 seconds about myself, and then I'll let other folks take it away. I'm Margaret Butler. Yes, I am an M&A lawyer, Baker Hofstetler. I am also a hockey mom, and this is my son's jersey that he wore to nationals. He made it to nationals the past season. And he's also a member of the Aspen Institute's Project Play and of the NHL's Youth Advisory Board. And my own family's business is sports. My husband is partners with Mark Messier. They tried to bring the world's largest sports facility to New York City and were unable to do so because of political reasons. But this is a topic close to my heart, and especially hockey because I get to be biased because I'm the moderator. So we decided hockey first. So Shirley.
Hello, hi. Yes, we have a piece of ice there, right there at Rockefeller Plaza, just down there. If anybody, so hi everyone. Hi, this is Shirley. Very excited to be here today. I see many familiar faces. I have met of all my friends from the family office space. Thank you for having me here. But but a lot of you might not know my story in the past, as I was once the first general manager of a professional ice hockey team in China. So over the past 11 years, I worked very closely with two single-family offices, respectively from Hong Kong and here in the United States. And with a family that was based in Hong Kong, I was very fortunate to be appointed at that executive role at a very high level, at professional level with the ice hockey team. And first the men's team, and then later we also founded two women's team. And we were prepared for the Winter Olympic Beijing 2022. And we started the two women team in 2017. And that's when I met Digit. Digit came all the way from Rhode Island to Shenzhen, a city in the south part of China, which was it's so humid like Florida, and with no ice at all in that city. And we built a hockey culture, and we built two ladies team from nothing, from scratch.
It was a shit show. It was a shit show. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, and then but what really opened my eyes about women sports is that I remember when I first time traveling to Toronto after our scouting trip, and we stepped into the office of CWHL, and it's shocking to find out actually we were the only two teams were founded, and the rest of the
funded,
right? Yeah. So the rest of the teams, the women players are so brilliant, but they had to work 2-3 jobs even to keep playing professionally, and there was just no money there. I'm sorry, I have to be direct. So we decided that we want to be that voice. We wanted to take the reason why that we started this United Women Sports, United Women in Sports NIL agency is that because we want to be that voice. And as my connections and my social capital here in the family office space, that I wanted to help this outstanding women athletes to connect them with the business world and with the financial institutions, as well as with all my friends in the family office space. Thank you.
Woo. I love you, Shirley. I'm going to follow up with that. My name is Digit Murphy. And first of all, I want to congratulate all the professional athletes in the room because I'm a Title IX baby and it wasn't even happening when I was doing it. So congratulations, you guys, that you guys can make money, go to the Olympics. Awesome. Secondly, thank you, Julia, and thank you everyone for having me here, Margaret. I started playing sports in 1972, and I was lucky enough to get, it was a scholarship back then to Cornell. I know they don't say they had scholarships, but I did not have to pay a dime. I am first generation college, okay? I didn't know what it meant to go to school, never mind play hockey, okay? And I got into the real world. I did not like my job. I quit to go back to school to be a phys ed teacher. And my grandmother, my Italian grandmother said, "Oh, Margarita, you go to Cornell. What are you doing? Go be a gym teacher. Go make some money." And I said, "Hey, I can't help you. I can't help you there. I got to go follow my passion." And to Garrick's point, he did the same thing. So as I evolved in the professional, in the space, I became the hockey coach at Brown University. It was my dream come true. And you know what? I hated Brown. You know why I hated Brown? They didn't recruit me. I was pissed, right? Scored 4 goals every single time we played against them. Okay. And I ended up building the program up to the top. We went to the Final Four. We did so many cool things at Brown. And then I left Brown and we got into the professional sports space. And I do want to acknowledge Rhonda Kirby, our other founder. She actually, it's funny when you talk about Christian and
Raluca.
Yeah, Raluca. She is my Raluca because she does all behind the scenes. I am total flash and dash, and she's the one behind the scenes keeping the trains in the tracks. So anyways, we started a company called United Women's Sports back then, and we worked in the pro hockey space. We worked in the pro lacrosse space. We were the first ever women's professional lacrosse team league that we started this in 19, dating myself, in 2017, okay? So when you look at women's sports, it's we don't make any money, right? But the reason we started this initiative is that there are tons of great stories out there for women's sports, and we don't make anything. There are players that graduate from Harvard. There's fractional CFOs. They're vice presidents of sales organizations, and no one knows about these guys. So we decided, Shirley and I, after the Olympics, she goes, "Digit, the Olympics are very popular. What do we do now?" I said, "Let's start an agency. It's a Wild West out there. Athletes trust us. They're going to come to us. They're going to sign with us, and we're going to go get them deals." So that's why we're here today. We also have one of our other emerging sports that we are trying to fund right now. We have Giga here, which is the pro gymnastics. The founder here, Maura, she's working with us. I mean, guys, I just wish that we were in the space where we were making money so you guys could be managing our money. So our goal, without further ado, and I'm going to pass it off, is to actually get to that space. And we need your help getting us to that space, funding emerging sports, funding programs that we have for our professional athletes that aren't making any money right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Also a warm welcome from my end. Thank you very much to be here to this very exciting panel. My name is Johannes Dubritzberger. I'm a registered manager on FK Austria Wien, Austria Vienna. So we don't have only the sound of music. We have also very traditional clubs in Austria. One of them is Austria Wien. And Austria Wien is a very historical club. It's over 115 years old, many titles. And I think we have a good use case today for you today. So the club is owned on the one hand, by the club itself. So we have in Austria and in Germany, by the way, the rule that 50+1, so which means owned the majority by the club, and the other is really public company. So we have more or less a bit of the situation that we are family driven on the one hand, and on the other hand, we are business driven, which means very measurable, very professional way, reviewing ROI, what all that we heard. So this is something which is, of course, a challenge, I must say, also for our culture, not only for us in the management, not only for us in the employees, but of course, it's also a challenge for our players and our women's too. Yeah, we have a very strong women team, 2, 3, 4 teams. Yeah, so that is something which I hope to give you a bit of insights how we are running that in the hope, of course, to get a lot of investments, either equity or capital, to invest again into our young people, but also in our players overall, who are the ambassadors. So happy to have this panel today, and thanks for here.
I'm Michael Fellman. I guess the investor side is on this side. I wear a couple of hats. I run my own single family office, and then I like to say my day job is I run MSF Capital Advisors with 2 other partners, one being a pretty famous sports family, the Vandeways, Kiki Vandewey. So Kiki Vandewey's aunt's my partner. Her brother was Ernie Vandewey. Tana Vandeweghe was an Olympic athlete. Coco Vandeweghe just retired from professional tennis. And then Brookie Vandeweghe was an original beach volleyball player. So it's an amazing family. Personally, I've been involved. I'm an attorney by training. That's where my personal wealth was basically suing people and corporations. And then I started a sports and entertainment company. I worked for the New York Knicks. I worked for the Brooklyn Cyclones, National Lacrosse League, St. John's University basketball team. And I was also heavily involved in youth sports. I started with another gentleman, group, something called Rumble in the Bronx. We had 75 AAU teams. They used to come up to Fordham every summer. Allen Iverson would come, Lamar Odom would come. I worked with a local team. We sent 5 kids, the starting 5, to the NBA. 3 of them as #1 picks. Going back to all 3 of them didn't last very long in the NBA, and they all went broke. I remember one, I tried to advise him not to jump to the pros from high school. He had offers at Memphis, Louisville, North Carolina. Instead, he signed with the Timberwolves. First thing he did was buy a Rolls Royce with his contract. Didn't last very long in the NBA, and then unfortunately ended up in jail. So it's a sad story. I knew him since he was 8 years old. So everything that everyone's been talking about is really relevant because I've seen it. I've hung out with, as telling the previous, I hung out with Antoine Walker. As far as what we're involved with now, again, this is more through clients of mine in Europe, Middle East, Asia, Latin America. We're heavily involved in racing. We still own, or one of my clients still owns a piece of Alpine. We used to own McLaren years ago, NASCAR team, an Indy team. We own a rugby team in the UK. And the only thing I would advise if you are going to get into team ownership is become the majority owner. Don't be a minority owner. Having worked for the Dolans and the Wilpons, I'm telling you, you want to be the majority, not the minority. And I get pitched private equity funds up the gazoo, sports private equity funds up the gazoo. I mean, I'm presently have the Baltimore Orioles plan on my desk to invest into that. I'm also looking at a sailing team, which I'm really heavily focused on, Sail GP right now. But I know a big family in New Jersey. Money was made in real estate. They are one of the biggest minority owners of an NBA team, and they've been in litigation with the GP now for a while. I don't think it may have settled. So I would advise, if you're going to be involved in investing in sports, you want to come in either 100% or at least a majority where you kind of control the purse strings and what's going on, because a lot of times you don't even get information rights. You get very little knowledge. I remember one quick last story. I just saw him the other day. He's got a famous story about George Steinbrenner. And when George was raising money for minority ownership in the Yankees, the banker at the time, he worked at Lehman, said, well, what are we going to give the investors? And George said, the right to buy a ticket. And he was serious. And so just be very careful. Make sure you have good representation. These are typically wealthy, very wealthy. Look, I work for the Dolans and the Wilpons. These are very, very wealthy people. They'll fight you. And so make sure you have, good attorneys. Make sure, you protect yourself. But from my personal experience, you'd want to come in on the majority, at least on the majority, if not 100% side. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Now I have to drop all these names too. Those are great names, man. Okay, a few hats that I wear. So everything centers around tech. I'm sorry, Athul Prasher, that's my name. Centers around disruptive tech in sports and media. So entertainment being that broad umbrella. So KMH Group, that's the investment. That's our venture group. That's what we invest in, disruptive tech. And we work with a lot of NBA and NFL teams, athletes. I have a lot of friends that I'll mention that in a moment. The next thing we do is I have a smallish film fund. We support female creatives. And I want to bring that into the sports arena in 2025 because we do a lot in that space. And it's just my first love. Third thing of that arm, which I spoke with a few gentlemen already, and I'm trying to get more female athletes on because I haven't. So yeah, I want to chat with you both. So I run this. I run this podcast, Whiskey Hue. It has a global reach. We sip a little whiskey. We talk business, tech, and investing. It's with I have a lot of athletes, investors, and all the executives on. But it has a global reach. So if you're trying to push it out to somewhere, we can get it there. And we have the backing of Fordham. So the Fordham tie-in is I am an adjunct. Whatever I do in my day job as far as investing, I teach that once a year at Fordham to the MBA students. And then we are partying. We only mentioned once. We'll talk January 25th. There's a beautiful event coming up. So that's what we're doing. Juliet, no, we're going to stay there. I'm not going to go beyond that. There might be other things on the horizon as well. But yeah, that bringing it all together. I probably could have spoken on the last panel because I think Larissa, Kyle, right? I work with a lot of those. Those are the stories that I'm working with all the time. So a lot of these folks. So we'll get into that, I think, in a minute. So that's a brief kind of nutshell.
I would love to bring it back to women's teams because that's a new area for investment. So maybe you guys can give us some guidance there.
Guidance on, well, first of all, I think you should all get into women's sports because they're way cheaper to get into. I mean that wholeheartedly. I mean, you've got, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and there are lots of sports product out there. And the question is, when am I going to make my money back? And, you're going to make it back, but it may not be Caitlin Clark style, valuing those companies through the roof just because we're not there yet. We have a way different audience that we have the opportunity to go get. Way different audience. People have only viewed sports between the traditional lens. I'm going to say it again. The traditional sports lens was invented by most of you guys in this room. There's a whole bunch of women that really want to watch sports. We just don't have the opportunity to consume it like we want to consume it. Okay. We want to consume it with our families. Okay. We don't want to pay $1,000. We don't want to go at 7:00 at night and come home at like midnight because guess what? Tomorrow morning, we got to get up and get those kids ready for school. So we're just not consuming it the same way. And the sooner that people understand that women can be part of a sports conversation is when we're going to start to see that, no pun intended, hockey stick happen for women's sports. So, I think that it is about time, but you need the right women involved too. And you can't just find women who are, they're around men's sports, because you have to come into the conversation with a little different way of thinking about the lens you consume the sports through. And it's really hard for people to reimagine sports through the female lens. But look what Caitlin Clark has done, right? But I got to say this. It took 33 years to get to this point. It ain't going to take that much longer if we do invest in women, because we know the future is now, the future is female. And it's coming, guys. It's coming. So invest in women's sports. It's a rounding error for men's sports. Get the right women at the table to help you do this. And, we got United Women's Sports right here. So just saying. Shirley?
I have to say that I think what makes us unique, especially even from the time that we work together, is that we don't wait for the right condition to happen. We start working with whatever resources are in our hand. And that's what women do. But, one thing that we women are not good in is actually sharing, because we have so little resources around. And then we are actually, most of the athletes that we talk to, although they're so good, you see that this is like the treasure that we have been looking for. But you know what? They don't really believe in themselves at what they can be. But so we need to have our pair of good eyes to discover them and to elevate them and to put them in front of brands, business, banks, institutions, and to rediscover their real value. And then, you know what? We're thinking about NCAA. We're thinking about professional level. And then a couple of other panels already talk about athletes cannot be athletes forever. So what about their exit plan? what about their next journey? And we want to be there for them too. So I believe this is really something that we're passionate about, and that's why we're here today. Thank you.
I also wanted to ask you, because I recall that you mentioned during our prep call some ideas about the broader ecosystem that I think would be great for the group to hear.
Yeah, thank you. Just a word to the women investments. So I really can confirm this as a proof point. We see it in Austria, Wien, in Vienna, really in the terms of fans. There is a new target group coming to us in the stadium. It's not the girlfriend, it's not the daughter, it's really the supporter. It's the fan, the girl who is going into our merchandising shop, coming into the stadium, consuming in our stadium, supporting the team. And this is a change. So it's really a change in the cultural mindset. And of course, I must say that our women's team is much cheaper than the men's one. That's fact. That's fact. But we try to balance this in the future and to have more investments into that, because this is an investment into the future. Absolutely. Not only for us, not only for the players, for the girls, it's also for our partners and sponsors. They are requesting this. This is a point where there is no discussion. This is something, diversity and inclusion is something part of the balance sheet, it's part of the corporate identity, and we need to prove this. So I think that is in the future absolutely something we see as a mandatory. We see it also in Europe as a growing market, not only US market where it is already but it is growing in Europe, not only in UK, maybe there is a threshold in the same, but in Europe, in Germany, in Austria, there will be a growth. So this is something where we see a lot of investments in the future. So to your question, yes, investments into a club like us, and we are a SMB, is important for us. Unfortunately, capital, equity, or venture capital is not very attractive in Austria, I must say. There are a lot of compliance, a lot of regulations, which makes it really hard as an SMB to invest into the future. But we need this, and in the benchmarking, I must say, we Austria, but also Europe is behind the scene, is behind the others, especially US market. So that is something we want to improve in the future. But what would we do with the investments is, of course, taking us into our education. Education, we mean really, and we heard it before, education not only in sports, but also in school. We are currently building up a school right to the stadium. So we have the academy, we have the stadium, the whole campus together. This is investment into the future. So this is what we want to do more. And then, of course, there is the digital transformation. It's also not stops in sports. It's needed really that we all have a clear data strategy. There is no excuse. We need to have a clear data strategy where we want to go with the data. So we heard about storytelling. Our players are the main actors. They are the content creator, and our job is to make this really as a business case. Requests by our sponsors and partners are, give me your story, and I want to match your story. I'm talking to digital analysts and not to marketing. They all want really clear messaging. And that's why we are transforming currently from a traditional club, from a soccer club, to an entertainment center. And this is something which is not easy to explain our hardest supporters. They don't know, they push on our tradition, but we need to move into this way. And that's a hard process. It's a cultural change. And that is something which we want to have more investments into the future, into this transformation. Thank you.
In terms of investing in women's sports, it's certainly, we're seeing valuations increase, particularly in soccer, right? And in the WNBA, and I think gymnastics is probably another sport, because I think to some degree you see it in the Olympics, right? Or you've seen gymnastics in Olympics, and the women's team has done so well in gymnastics, in soccer, in basketball. So those are the obvious ones, right? Because I've been involved in minor league. I don't know where the gentleman is, but I was an investor in the Arena Football League, which didn't do well. I was a personal investor. So it's tough when you're not investing in what I would call the major sports, right? The reason I'm interested in, someone came to me, I think it was 8 years ago, to invest into Sail GP. And I said, no. I said, how are you going to compete against America's Cup that's been around 100 or so years? But it's at a what I call an inflection point, just like a company. And I think it's a good time, an entry point to get into that sport. And also they have mixed crew, which I like. And also they are focused on the environment. You get environmental points, whatever exactly that means. But I think when you look at sports, it's like any other business. I look at it as a business. I was in the movie business as well, and I actually made money. And to me, I look at it as a business. And yes, it's great if we have all this stuff, but I still want to make money. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be.
It's even shittier than VC models, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I'm a big VC investor. So I look at these things and saying, okay, what is the business model? How are you going to get that traction you need, and how much is it going to cost? I mean, that's the even more important, is like, how much is it going to cost? Because look, I worked for the New York Knicks when the Liberty just started, and there was nobody in the stands, no one. I used to see it. Right now, look at it. Right now, look what it is. Right, they won it, and everybody's great. So it takes time. Right, it takes time. It takes money. Right, you got to be well capitalized, just like a business. Right, just like a business. And so I think even in traditional, look, I'm involved in racing. Right, I belong to a car club over here. Half the members now are women. The Netflix show Drive to Survive, like my daughter now is an F1 junkie. She knows everything about F1. They actually have separate women's groups that take cars out and go out and drive together. And so you're seeing more participation even in male sports, in women wanting to get involved. And I wouldn't doubt at some point there may be a female F1 driver.
Thank you, Michael. I want to give it.
Sure, yeah, I'm gonna hit on a few points. Yeah, I hit on a few points. The women's sports, yes, you have to make it, and they're making it media savvy. Even for the NFL, let's draw back to a male-driven sport. Well, all male players, right? And you had one female kicker on the Arizona Cardinals. I think, wow, a Panther 10 years ago or something like that. I met her. She was great. But in the NFL, it's male-driven. So they've been doing things, softening up the rules so you can't hit as hard. So then so mothers will feel inclined to let their kids watch it with their dad. Right. So they've done that in the last 20 years. They still need to soften up. I don't know how they do that with like sport like UFC or MMA, maybe someday. But doing that, we discussed like the big four here in America. It's difficult to get the tech multiples that I'm always looking for. So then we did look at the squashes and the pickleballs of the world. And those valuations got a bit out of whack as well. The pickleball one, especially because you had a lot of celebrity endorsers in there. Women's sports is a beautiful space, and all they have to do, it's a great product, right? It's all of these are products, right? Jerry Jones, I mean, they're not my team, but Cowboys are not, but he's the one after Al Davis that said we need to make the NFL is not a sport, it's entertainment, right? And they positioned it as such. And all the other leagues in America are catching up per se, right? So it's a matter of, I think once now the product is there, WNBA, my kids play travel basketball. They're young, they're very young, but their coaches always say, don't watch NBA or just watch college or WNBA, because they know that's teamwork. You're not going to learn how to watch, 55-year-old LeBron. I'm a Jordan guy. So, 50 LeBron dunk again. He's a beast, LeBron. But, it's teamwork is what you see in the other sports, in those two sports in particular, to learn that, that sport. So watch female basketball and collegiate basketball, because that's just a better teamwork play. Getting back to what was on the last panel, what I do here, like, getting back to the athlete, a lot of athletes, this is where I fell into the mix with a bunch of NBA and NFL athletes that became dear friends. And they're asking us, look, we have a truncated amount of time where we earn quite a bit of capital, some of us, but then we have to, once we leave the game, we need to extend that financial literacy, financial freedom that we have, and have some sort of plan in place. And that's where a lot of opportunities arise as far as, hey, putting it in place. So financial literacy is a big portion of what we teach to a lot of athletes. They sought out, say, hey, what do I do? I've earned this capital. What do I do? I want it to earn capital, earn while I'm sleeping or while I'm traveling or doing whatever. Invest, right? And then when they become so inclined, we get them into the private markets as well. And then that's where you have it's the people that's your group, I think, that you can build with. And there's a lot that can be done within this group. And then we have to extend the life of the athlete beyond the game, right? And give them opportunities. And there's so many opportunities now that are being created. So I'll give it back to you all.
Thank you.